Recorded live in studio, it's Washed Out with Waking Up, a song from the new album Notes from a Quiet Life. Joining me is Ernest Green, who performs as Washed Out. I am Kallao. This is World Cafe. Ernest, so nice to meet. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So I want to obviously talk about the album, but one of the things I first want to get into is something that I read in the sort of press release notes for the album. And it said that you have left the treadmill of the music business. And man, that is one way to describe the music industry for sure. Can you talk a little bit more about what the treadmill was like for you and why you kind of had to hop off?
Yeah, I mean, basically it was just kind of being comfortable taking a step back from the limelight a little bit, taking my time with recording music. You know, I feel like nowadays the fear is that if you don't have singles coming out every few months, you know, that your fan base might disappear or something. So yeah, I think that's the main thing, is just taking the time that I need. You know, I've made 5 albums at this point.
In a decade.
Yeah, I mean, over a decade.
Over a decade. But
yeah, but so I don't feel like I necessarily need to just, you know, keep it cranking out, you know, in terms of new music or whatever. And every album of mine is, you know, pretty different, at least, you know, from my perspective. You know, I'm trying always to try some new things, experiment. So it takes some time to sort of figure that process out.
Yeah, you moved back to like wilderness area where you grew up in your childhood. You'd been living in Atlanta. You know, when you think about the album title, this maybe kind of ties into a little bit of it.
For sure.
Tell me about making that move. Was it time for a change, or I mean, it was also around the pandemic, so there might have been other stuff involved.
Yeah, there was certainly an element of our place in Atlanta was quite small, really tiny backyard. I have young kids, and so yeah, that was a part of it, just needing more space. But yeah, I grew up in this very rural environment, lots of, you know, nature to explore, and was missing that in a lot of ways. And, you know, love the idea of my kids sort of experiencing a similar thing. But it was the first time, like from a practical perspective, it was the first time I've ever had like a studio separate from my house. So just like basic things like that, you know, where like I'm trying to do a vocal take and there's a baby crying, you know, the room over, stuff like that. I have like, I was really lucky. The property that we found, the previous owners had built this really nice cabin, and I've sort of just turned that into my little project studio. So, so it's worked out really well.
Yeah, that's very cool. You're listening to World Cafe. We're talking with Ernest of Washed Out. Up next, a performance of Say Goodbye. You know, people have pointed out, and I think rightfully so, this record, it does feel a little bit more tranquil. You know, even this song, which has a nice, you know, driving beat to it, like has some forward momentum, but a lot of introspection. Can you tell me about where this song started or how it started for you?
Yeah, this was actually one of the first songs to really come together. And I think all of my albums have worked like this, where, like I mentioned before, I'm trying a lot of new things. And suddenly, like, a song comes together, and it's sort of checking all of the boxes that I'm hoping to accomplish, you know. So
that's cool.
For this album, it was this song. It's hard to pinpoint exactly what that was. I think it was just the tone of it. As you mentioned, it's quite tranquil. I mean, for me, it sort of exists in this in-between place between happy and sad.
Yeah.
You know, it's like major chords, very happy, minor chords, very sad. It lies somewhere in between there, which I think Washed Out has always, you know, inhabited that space to some degree, but this felt like a new, fresher version of that, at least to my ears.
Awesome. We'd love to hear it. It's Washed Out here on World Cafe. Recorded live on World Cafe. It's Washed Out. That is Say Goodbye. It is from their new album, Notes from a Quiet Life. I'm Kallao, joined by Ernest Green of Washed Out. You know, the influences you cite for this album, that normally it's other musicians, maybe some authors, but it's very rare that I get to drop a Cy Twombly reference or a Donald Judd, or as I like to call him, Mr. Roundboy, Henry Moore. They all share a bond. Painters, sculptors, photographers, they're all visual artists. I find that so fascinating. Can you talk a little bit about why you looked to them for inspiration, and in particular, Henry Moore and his work?
Yeah, so basically over the last probably couple album cycles of touring, I've spent more and more time as we travel, going to art museums is kind of like my thing. Been to pretty much all of the major art museums around the U.S. and even a lot in Europe and stuff. And yeah, I was trying to explain this yesterday. We were in New York and went to the Met. It was Cameron's first time there, and one of the biggest museums in the world. It was kind of exhausting, to be honest, but
yeah, it's not a quick trip.
Yeah, I was trying to explain how, for some reason, with visual art, my favorite is kind of painting from the past, like 100 years or so. And for whatever reason, you can just see some of these major milestones happening in a way that I don't really necessarily hear with music so much, or it's just maybe more obvious. But my favorite thing to do personally is to, put on AirPods or whatever, put some like really out there sort of ambient music and just like walk around. And I feel like I was trying to explain to them, I feel like I have like the best ideas seeing like these breakthroughs, in visual art that I can sort of relate back to my music. So with someone like Henry Moore, what I love most about, his work is amazing.
It's incredible, yeah.
I don't know if you know much about him, but he's British, and late in his career, he bought this farm, and he has these really large works, and just seeing it in space, is really amazing. So yeah, that I'm mimicking that to some degree with my property. Like I have visions for the future of like adding these large scale stuff. Again, I'm just so in love with that sort of thing. But yeah, it's just these breakthroughs. And another interesting thing that I think about art is some of the breakthroughs are just so unique to the person. Like we're all kind of in music working within these fairly strict genres, I think. But that's the other thing. Someone like Cy Twombly, like it's hard to connect the dots of like the precedent for him, at least for me,
When they say you make an album, the buck stops with you, it literally does with you. You served as producer, you played all of the instruments. So like you kind of tackled something pretty big to take it from, I know someone helped with the mixing towards the end on a few tracks, but like still this is you. So like, tell me about that challenge and taking that on.
Yeah, for better or for worse.
Right.
Yeah, that definitely explains the minimalism and the simplicity, mainly because I'm not a great player. I've been, again, we've talked about this fairly recently. Like, I feel like my instrument is the computer and the recording environment. So yeah, mainly I'm like moving stuff around the screen, but it was a challenge to sort of see everything through to the end by myself. And it's the first time I felt like confident enough, I think, to do it. I've worked with some really amazing engineers and producers that have helped my music, sound really amazing. So yeah, it takes a lot of confidence to be like, I can do it better than that. Like these folks that have made, have amazing careers and made amazing music. So yeah, that was the challenge.
You're listening to World Cafe. We were talking with Ernest of Washed Out. Notes from a Quiet Life is the new album. Tell me about the harmony engine, which sounds like it belongs in a Star Trek show, to be completely honest with you. No.
It is pretty futuristic. It's not so different than a vocoder, which has been around for a while.
Right. Was that Frampton, right?
Yeah, well, that's the talk box. Yeah,
Never mind,
similar thing. The vocoder is you kind of feed your vocal through a synthesizer, and whatever notes that you're triggering, it'll sort of change the pitch of the vocal to that. So you can play a chord, and your voice will suddenly be a chord instead of just one voice, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But the harmony engine is like a much newer version of that, I would say, and it's just more transparent. You can make it sound more human. I've always used a lot of harmonies and layers to my vocal.
Mm-hmm.
We talked a little bit about this off camera, but I'm not super confident as a singer.
Yeah.
So like that's always been a thing with Washed Out is, layering things, but this just felt like a new way to do that.
And how did it help on, say, Second Sight?
Yeah, so it's pretty loud in the mix, my main vocal is center, and then these other kind of half human, half robot sounding vocals are kind of spread out in the stereo field. And, there's one voice that's an octave lower and one voice that's an octave higher. And it's all blended together where it's like you don't necessarily hear it. It just makes it really full and sort of slightly futuristic feeling. That's the way I hear it.
You're listening to World Cafe. Here's Washed Out with Second Sight.
How was I supposed to know? How was I supposed to see? When all that I was hoping for was right here in front of me. Feel it all the time, can never seem to make it out. On the other side, I think I finally figured out my life. My eyes are open now. I see you closer now. Sometimes it's just too hard to think. Sometimes it's just too hard to read. When And everything you thought you were now just doesn't mean a thing. Once I saw the light, there was no turning back. On the other side, I think I finally figured out my life. It's right in front of you. What you gonna do?
Recorded live on World Cafe, it's Washed Out with Second Sight, a track from the band's new album, Notes from a Quiet Life. And I'm talking with Ernest Green of Washed Out, who's in studio today. You premiered the music video for your song, The Hardest Part, using generative technology through the platform Sora. It was the first music video of its kind to use this technology. I kind of want to jump back to your first conversation with the director, Paul Trillo.
Sure, yeah.
What was his pitch to you? What was he proposing for the music treatment?
So the original video was going to be much more traditional. I had something in mind, sort of like Henry Moore's estate was like the starting point. There was going to be like rolling hills, and we were going to shoot everything with, normal camera setups and crew and that sort of thing. But he was super, super busy, and just things kept, like his deadlines kept running over. And so it was very clear that was going to fall apart.
Yeah.
And so he just mentioned casually that he had been one of the few people that were sort of testing it behind the scenes, testing Sora. Fairly limited access, but he had been working with it, and he pitched the idea of incorporating that. I had been following some of the developments. I was familiar with like DALL-E, like the still image
Generator, yeah. You type in a prompt, and then wow, there's this thing.
Yeah, exactly. I've done over 20 music videos at this point. I had a whole visual album in 2017, Mr. Mellow. And so, he pitched the idea of using Sora and sort of leaning into how weird it can be, like where, you can ask it to sort of transition through multiple scenes, and sometimes it's something that might be based in reality. Other times it's just like completely wacky.
Yeah.
And so he was like, let's just try to like really lean into that like weird Lynchian weirdness, that happens. And so that was his pitch.
It's kind of hard to ask these questions without sort of talking about the reaction that came in.
Yeah.
And it almost sounds like you weren't prepared for
without a doubt,
the level of reaction that you got. How did you feel seeing, and to point this out, it was divisive. There were people who thought it cool, but there was also a very vocal contingent who no AI ever whatsoever. And I imagine you're trying to put out a piece of art. I'm like putting myself in your shoes. That would feel, I imagine, demoralizing or heartbreaking in a way.
Yeah, I knew that some people just wouldn't like it from like a creative perspective. If they just don't like the style of it, for instance. That was mainly where my head was at. But I certainly didn't anticipate, just how much attention it got and all of the many, many layers of the debate that just sort of got piled on top of the video. And to be perfectly honest, I was naive in that way.
Yeah.
And so I, was very plugged into reading comments and, a lot of people's take on things. And it was actually helpful to sort of understand, number one, how complex the situation is with AI. And just, I'm much more schooled, I think, on the ongoing debate. But, I still feel like it's a brand new form of art making. We just have to figure out a way that everyone is, morally comfortable with in terms of using it. I mean, there's some no-brainers like just in the creative sphere, just, speeding up the creative process, like these small little features, just like with animation or whatever, like you could speed up stop motion by replacing frames in between instead of having to do every single one or something like that. And that's basically how Paul had used the AI stuff before this video. But yeah, it was obviously the first time like making it completely with AI generative stuff. So
here we are on World Cafe. We are talking with Ernest from Washed Out about the new album, Notes from a Quiet Life, which is available now. We have one more song to get to. It's called Running Away. Is there anything the audience should know before you get into this performance?
I don't think so. This was another one of my favorite songs, I think. Yeah, just in terms of songwriting, there's been other albums of mine where it was more, I think the production was kind of leading the way and just trying some, more experimental things. And maybe the songwriting kind of took a back seat. But this album, I think just traditional songwriting was more of like a focus and a starting point. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with this one. I think it's, a short pop song, but it goes a few different places, So, yeah, I hope everyone can enjoy it.
I'm sure we will.
Why do you turn and walk away when I
Outstanding. Outstanding. It's washed out here on World Cafe with a performance of Running Away. It is from the new album Notes from a Quiet Life. Ernest Green has been my guest. Ernest, this was an absolute pleasure. Congratulations on the new album, and please come back again and see us soon.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome. Awesome. We're back in a minute with more World Cafe.
Say goodbye.